Well,
Should we?
to me, the biggest military consequence is there's no strategic objective you can take. Why are you still fighting?
Yeah, Craig. That water thing is certainly something that forces of use for an eternity. I've told stories before in the Afghanistan war when the Taliban saw us coming, they would flood the fields, so you wouldn't be able to patrol on the fields. I mean, water is massively effective. The elements, you can't fight the elements. So Vaun, where would you would have attacked if you had the Ukrainian military?
I mean, looking at the map, I probably would have gone somewhere closer to Donetsk because it seems like there's less fortifications there the farther you get out. I mean, like the area they're attacking, I think it's where they've lost the Bradleys and the Leopards. But it's the one above like Stopanov or something like that, or in that area. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. But if you look at it, it's like they're advancing down this narrow corridor that's in the low ground, and there's Russian positions on both sides of different sizes, and the one in front of them that they're hitting. But you know, if the Russians were to fall back or withdraw, which seems like what they're doing, if you follow that terrain, it literally feeds them down through these defenses, but they're always going to have Russians on either side of them and always in front of them. It's almost like this gap runs along let's just call it like a long gulch. You know, there's the fields above it, and it kind of just, slopes down in there. They're kind of running along that. I mean, so they're getting shot at from all sides, from above, all, three sides on the high ground. I almost think it's a trap. I mean, if I had to do an offensive, I think I would have done closer to Donetsk because there hasn't been as much chance to build fortification there because that's where most of the fight has been taking place. I mean, you can't push around Marinka to Avdiivka. I think it would be too hard to try to swing up around somewhere north of Bakhmut just because how much time it would take to shift everything up there. So I just think the 2 points I've seen where they attacked, one kind of funnels them down through these defenses in this, for all intents and purposes, valley. And the other one, they're hitting like the lines where it's a solid line with, fairly large lines of entrenchments in between. It's like they picked the two worst places to hit. I mean, they're trained by NATO, they're equipped by NATO, but then they're not allowed to fight like NATO. They're not fighting NATO doctrine, but they're trained NATO doctrine and equipped NATO doctrine. I mean, they're going in there with probably barely any artillery, and let's be honest, for all intents and purposes, no air support, because it doesn't really matter if like one hip gets through or one hind or one Su-25. I mean, that's going to have a negligible effect on whatever battle's going on. They need 10 Su-25s to come in and hit a target and get out. They need – I mean, look at the Russians. I mean, they got K-52s, Hinds. They got the Mi-28s. They got the HIPs. They got tactical aircraft. I mean, these guys are rolling into, a death trap basically, because I mean the Russians have everything that they need to fight in the Ukraine. I mean, the Ukrainians have basically half of what they need. I mean, it's like I said, those are nice units they've got assembled. You've got Leopards and stuff up front. You've got Bradleys, and you've got armored vehicles with troops in there. Let's call them, mechanized infantry. I mean, that's a nice little punch, but they can't get nowhere because they're getting hit by drones, they're getting hit by artillery, and they're getting hit by, tactical aircraft. And that's before they even get close to the enemy positions.